Hello everybody, this is the Vikstrand. A couple of weeks ago I released a list of the best South Korean movies I've ever seen. One of the entries on this list was the movie 2009 Lost Memories. And today I'm reviewing the actual movie. So you already know that this is going to be a pretty damn good review for a pretty damn great movie. Let's find out exactly how freaking awesome this movie is. This is 2009 Lost Memories. You will probably get a lot more out of this movie if you're really knowledgeable in South Korean culture, Japanese culture, and the history of the two countries. Because this movie's starting point is a failed assassination attempt in Harbin, China, 1909. This leads to a completely new timeline that is created, where Japanese does not join the Axis powers, but they instead joins the United States in World War II, and therefore are, one of the winners of World War II. And this also makes Japan into this amazingly huge powerhouse within Asia, and they also annex the entirety of the Korean peninsula. 100 years after, the failed coup attempt, South Korea and North Korea, the entire Korean peninsula is actually, engulfed with Japan, is now assimilated. Instead of, Taekwondo on TV, they show sumo wrestling and stuff like that. I really like those little small details, by the way. It gives the movie credibility and makes me believe that, this world actually kind of works. This movie starts in Seoul 2009, and we're having this group of freedom fighters that is trying to make Korea into a independent nation, free of the Japanese opposing on them. And this is kind of a dead issue in Korea at this point, because nobody really wants it, because it has gone too far. It's been too many years since Korea has been assimilated with the Japanese. So this is a dead question, and they have been laying very low and not doing anything for several years, but all of a sudden they have this all-out attack on this cultural center. Why? We don't know, and neither does the police when they show up, and we have this absolutely epic start of this movie with lots of really ludicrously but very fun and epic and over-the-top action sequences. Our two main characters are two police officers, one Japanese and one Korean, who basically has turned his back on his Korean heritage and basically just sees everybody as criminals or not criminals. And as also, like the movie Bright, his Japanese colleague and friend tells him, are you a Korean or are you a cop? Like Will Smith said, are you an orc or are you a cop? By the way, I really, dig the movie Bright. Don't at me. I think that movie absolutely rocks. Anyway, after the attack, the Japanese Bureau of Investigations, which they work for, the JBI, is saying that this is probably nothing that we're supposed to dig any further into. But he gets very personally involved with this one, the Korean cop that is, and he basically starts his own investigation with a very reluctant help of his Japanese friend. The same time as this is going on, he's also experiencing weird dreams about a woman with a crescent moon around her neck, which he seems to have seen before, and he sees her when they encounter this group again a while later. What is going on here? Because they are targeting a very powerful part of the Japanese society, which seems to have something to hide. And the further he goes into this one, the further he drifts away from, his former friend and the partner. Well, they're still partners and they're kind of friends, but they're sort of drifting apart. And is he going to, turn his back on being a police officer and actually helping the freedom fighters in this lost cause of trying to fight the Japanese? Or is he going to find out what this Japanese society is actually, withholding from the public? Is it some kind of a scandal? We shall see. The thing that drives this movie is the mystery. We don't know what he's going to come up with. We don't know why the freedom fighters were targeting this culture center. We are going to find out why they did this attack and why they're doing all of these attacks and stuff like that and assassinations. The reason why they're doing this is going to be very, very divisive, because there is a huge number of people who, when they see where this one's going, when the twist is revealed, will say, oh, fuck, they had me, but they fucked it up big time. There are a lot of other people who's probably going to say, I like this is awesome. I am more part of the second one rather than the first one, but I will, honest to God, absolutely understand why people would not like the second half of this movie. Some people will basically think this movie is one half absolutely fantastic movie and one half very, very terrible. And some people will say the second half of this movie elevated the first part of this movie even more. I think one of the reasons why I like this movie is the fact that they don't have a cop-out ending, because I smelt that this was going to end up in a cop-out ending when, you know, the finale of this movie was going down. I thought they're gonna do something. They're gonna do something to, you know, nullify this one, and we're not gonna have a definitive finish to this one. But they had a definitive finish for this one. They went all the way, and I'm very glad they did. For better or for worse, I like that they at least had a definitive finish to this one. The mystery, however, is very, very entertaining, and because we have these small little things that he's, you know, puzzling together, and these things are interrupted by very, very, very well made, very well shot, very well edited, and very, very great musically set action sequences. I mean, it is not the Raid levels of awesomeness, but it is a very good, you know, Asian action sequences, which I am a huge fan of. I like also the fact that we're having a bunch of side characters that all get small little, you know, story arcs around them, and we also have a villain that will show up later in this movie, and the reveal of who our villain is absolutely great, because it is not one of these I'm twirling my mustache and have a cape and a top hat and I'm being evil because I'm evil. The reasons for the evilness in this movie is totally justifiable, and that is what makes great villains. There are sequences in this movie where they had the difficult level of 10 and the execution level of 5. They should probably have, you know, the reversed. There are also these moments where the special effect really has aged horrendously bad. I'm okay with it, and I can, you know, look past it because the story on its own is good enough. But some people will probably get very, very annoyed with the poor special effects that, you know, on random is shown up. But I've always said, if you have a good enough story, it doesn't matter if your special effects are lackluster. Your story will still be able to carry on it despite this. But if you have a shitty story, bad CGI and bad special effects will drag it down even further. If you like cop movies, if you like mystery movies, if you like these sort of conspiracy things, and if you like, you know, alternate timelines and stuff like that, which there are very few movies, in my opinion, actually about. I would actually love to see more, you know, in this style of movies where you're having a movie that takes place in present day, but it still feels like a sci-fi movie, because that the politics and everything else is completely different, because we are in, you know, Korea geographically, but it is Japan culturally, and that does stuff to your, you know, world. This, by the way, feels a bit like a, you know, a miniseries or a TV show, basically, but they have crammed it all together in this 2 hours and 14-minute movie, and it really, really works because it never overstays its welcome. It's very fast-paced, and it always happens, and stuff is always happening. There are moments where they have to slow it down, but that is because they are, you know, loading up for to give us more action sequences. And there are these sequences in this movie that's really powerful, that's really powerful visual storytelling, which I'm really fond of. Small little, you know, things here and there, which is a little ridiculous and a little bit over the top, but I always like, when things go over top, because the use of choirs and the use of, big orchestral music score and stuff like that makes these action sequences seems even bigger. Some will say that it's over the top and that it's too much and that it's excessive and this and that, and I can absolutely understand it, but I live for these over the top moments. If you're interested in a great action thriller with some sci-fi spliced into it, with the alternate timeline things, you will find a lot of fun things in this movie. And if you do not like where this movie is going when you're, crossing the, I think it is, 95 minutes or something like that. If you don't like where it's going, you will probably do well to just turn the movie off and say, I'm gonna write my own end to this one. But if you like where this one is going, and if you like where the story is taking us, stick around, because I think that the ending of this movie is absolutely splendid. This is one of my favorite South Korean movies of all time, and I think it is really, really great. This is a very solid, very entertaining, very fast-paced movie, which I am very proud to give 90 points. It is a great action film. It has some really great characters, great fight sequences, great shootouts, great explosions and car chases and stuff like that. It has a lot of stuff which I really like in action movies, and I really recommend this one. If you've never seen it, I do recommend you to see it. So I'll see you next time for, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.